Hi, everyone. I am so delighted and fortunate to be here with you to celebrate and honor Alan Solow. Even the weather is celebrating you. Really, I mean, when is it so nice in Chicago? And welcome to Major General Tibon, or should we do it Israeli style? Can I call you Noam?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great. I also want to acknowledge and welcome Gali, your wife, who, as we saw in the video, is a hero on her own right. So I think, Noam, very few people in Israel sort of embody both the personal and the national of what happened on October 7th and since then. And you're one of those people. And we saw a lot of people in this room are familiar with what, your story on October 7th. We saw a tiny glimpse in that video, but others are not. Can you share a little bit with us? How did October 7th look from your perspective?
Yes, but first of all, I want Ellen to thank you for everything that you did for the state of Israel. You are a true Zionist, and I salute you. And thank you all for your help and your support for the state of Israel in this difficult time. This is very, very important for us. On October 7, my wife Gali and I woke up early in the morning in Tel Aviv, and basically we went to swim in the Mediterranean Sea, which we have beautiful beaches in Tel Aviv. 6:30 in the morning, we were in the middle of the swimming when we heard the sirens, and I remember talking with Gali and asked, what to do, and I said, we are in the middle of nowhere. Let's finish the swimming, and then 7:15, we entered our car. I opened my cellular phone, and I got a message from my son Amir, which basically said, Dad, there are terrorists inside Kibbutz Nahal. At that time, I can still talk with him, and I called him immediately, and I gave him the best direction I can. I said, Amir, close all the windows, lock the doors, get into the safe room, lock the door from the inside, be quiet, I'm sending the military. And Gali and I speed to our home, which is about 10 minutes drive, and I'm chatting to the chief of staff, the head of the Southern Command and the division commander, and basically telling them there are terrorists inside Kibbutz Nahal. The only one who answered me was Herzi Halevi. 7:22 in the morning, he said, we know. The chief of staff, yeah. And we came home, and in my brain, I thought, I served so many years in the military, I can trust the military. By my heart told me I have to go there to see that everything is okay. So I changed very fast. I didn't even think, because I have a pair of old uniform in my house. I didn't wear them. And I took my pistol. And then Gali, my wife, told me a very smart thing. She said, Noam, let me drive for you, because you will need both hands to call the military, and maybe if you will need to use your weapon, so you will have two hands. And I said, great idea, come. And we are speeding like hell south. The next text message around 7:30 in the morning from Amir, they are shooting on our porch. I think there is a terrorist inside our house. And I gave him the same direction. Be quiet, lock the door from the inside. By the way, he was right, because 7:30 in the morning, more than 150 terrorists enter Kibbutz Nahal Oz. They went directly, they had a very good intelligence, and they went directly to the house of Ilan Fiorentino, the head of the security of the kibbutz. He is my son neighbor. the first battle with Ilan, this brave guy, was 7:30 in the morning, and he was the first one to be killed at the entrance of his house in Kibbutz Nahal Oz. And we have pictures from terrorist cameras on my son's porch, which means one wall distance between my son and my two granddaughters. And I'm telling Amir, be quiet. And we are speeding like hell. I retired from the military 8 years ago, and I'm trying to call everyone whom I know in the military. Nobody is answering. From Ashkelon, we are the only vehicle on the road. And then we meet the war near Shderot, near Kibbutz Nir Am. And we are speeding alone on the road, and then we saw something just like a movie. We saw a police car standing in the middle of the highway, and on both sides, police officers are shooting against a white pickup. Later on, we understood that this belonged to the Hamas. And we are speeding towards this fight, and one of the policemen is turning and telling me, go away, go away. And we stop on the side of the road, and Gali and I, we are talking, what to do? We thought maybe we go through the field. We know this area very well. It's a matter of seconds, suddenly from the bushes, a young couple is jumping, wearing, just like for a party, and they're running into the fire. Very dangerous. So we open the door and we shout to them, come in, come in. They enter the car. We give them water. We ask them, where are you from? And they said, from Oranit, somewhere near Tel Aviv. And we said, what are you doing here? They said, we were in a party. Terrorists came. They slaughtered everybody. And they were afraid, like they said, come down. We are taking care of you. And then we decided that we cannot leave them there because they are going to be killed. We did a U-turn, and we took them back to Ashkelon. We saw a police car, and we left them there. We saved their life. And we are talking a lot about values. Values is something which you have inside, and you have, it guided you to do the right thing in seconds. And then we are trying to do, to take a different road east of Shderot. Time is running, and we are driving, and there is another police checkpoint near Kibbutz Brur Chayil. 2 police cars are blocking the road. And I have to tell you that on that day, none of the IDF plans and orders worked. But the police order to block the area of a terror attack worked very good. We lost 61 brave police officers on that day, but they blocked the Hamas plan to take those pickups and go to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Ashkelon, and made terror attacks all over Israel. And this was very important. But we are coming, and I take my card as a retired general and said, please let me go. My son has a terrorist inside in his house. And they said, no way. And I'm begging, and Gali is crying, no way. And then, sometimes you need something to ring your bell, to change your way of thinking. One of the police officers who understood who am I said, Noam, don't worry. The military is taking care of the situation. And I already knew that nothing is working. And we understood we are alone. So we took the jeep. We bypassed this checkpoint through the fields. Near Shderot, there were another police checkpoint. We just rushed through the checkpoint. They pointed their guns on us. We opened the windows and we shout, "Where are Israelis? Don't shoot." And then we came to Shderot Main Junction. And you know, I served 35 years in the military. I started the Special Forces, Sayat Matkal. I joined the first Lebanon War. I was the 202 battalion commander. I was the head of Hebron during the Intifada. I saw bodies in my life. This is part of my profession. But something like this I never saw in my lifetime. So there was many, many, many cars upside down, burning in a big mess, and it was all full of bodies. And many of them, bodies of young people, young female, soldiers, officers, and of course, Hamas, all mixed up. And we stopped the car. You know, we were shocked. And I told Gali, it is very dangerous. I never saw something like this in my lifetime. And then she told me something very smart. She said, no, if I would tell you about a couple, not here in Israel, not us, 10 kilometers from their kids where they have terrorists inside the house, and it is very dangerous, what would you tell them? And it was, you know, we understood each other. And we decided to go. And we enter the road, from the road south. We were the only vehicle on the road. Gadli was maneuvering between bodies. This region, at that time, 10 o'clock in the morning, was occupied by Hamas. There were no state of Israel and no IDF on that region. We were totally alone. And this was a very bad feeling. And we are maneuvering between the bodies. And then on the gate of Kibbutz Mefalsim, halfway to our son Kibbutz, there were another battle between IDF troops and terrorists. And we stopped in a shelter. And we jumped into the shelter. We waited. The fire ends, and then my dream came through. Now, in that time, we don't have any communication with Amir anymore. The electricity fell in Kibbutz Nahal Oz, and the whole communication, you know, fell apart. And my dream comes through. There were 3 armored vehicles of Yamam, the special police force, coming to the junction. And I'm going to there, and I'm telling them, please take me to Nahal Oz with you. My son has a terrorist inside the house. And the troops, they really wanted to help me. But their commander said, no, we need I need permission, I need the orders. And this was part of the problem that day, that everybody was asking for orders, but all the headquarters fell down. Nobody to talk to. And I'm begging, and I'm not a begging guy. And then one brave soldier by the name of Avi said, I know Noam from the past. I'm going to help him. He was already wounded in the leg. We decided to leave Gali alone in the junction and to go only the 2 of us in my vehicle. So I'm driving the Jeep now with my pistol. Avi is with me. He's full arm, but he's wounded. And again, we are the only vehicle on the road. We are the only Israeli force. And we come to Sad Junction, where you have to go to Nahal Oz. You have to turn west to Gaza, because Nahal Oz is on the border. And there is a attack helo, Israeli attack helo in the sky. And we were afraid that if we will go, he will think that we are terrorists. And he will shoot at us. So we waited. It's about 12:15 noon time. And we waited for about 10 minutes. And then suddenly a military vehicle came with 6 officers from the paratrooper recruit training base that organized and came to help. And we asked him, what is your mission? He said, we heard that some forces near Nahal Oz need help. And we said, great, let's go together. And we are driving about 1 kilometer before Nahal Oz. This is a very sidey road between fields. We heard shooting again, and we saw on the side of the road Israeli military vehicle full of holes of bullets. On the one side, we saw 5 Israeli troops, and on the other side, we saw about 7 or 8 Hamas soldiers attacking them. So immediately we stop and we jump to help them. And I'm, just like a young soldier, running and jumping, and I'm lying between the Israeli troops. Immediately I saw that my pistol is useless because we were under very heavy fire. I'm checking the soldiers on my right-hand side, and all 3 of them are already dead. Chen Buchis, the deputy of Maglan unit, a brave guy from Ashdod. Iftach Yabetz, another officer from Ramat HaSharon, and Afik Rosenthal. All 3 of them are dead. And we are under very heavy fire, so I have to fight for my life and for the troops. So I did what soldiers are doing. I took the helmet and the M16 of Chen Buchis. I saw 2 terrorists on my right-hand side. I killed them. And then we killed about 7 or 8 terrorists, all of us together. The road to Nahal Oz is open. And then one officer from the paratroopers, by the name of Yedidia, said, I'm wounded, I'm wounded. We check him, he got a bullet in his belly, and he is bleeding like hell. And immediately I understood that if we will not evacuate him very fast, he's going to die. So I was on a huge dilemma, what to do. I want to go to Nahal Oz. But if I will leave this guy there, he fought with me, he's going to die. So I told the paratroopers, throw all the wounded guys on my jeep. So I got Yedidia and another 2 troops. On the first vehicle of Maglan unit who came, there were 5 people, 3 dead and 2 wounded. Later on, one of the wounded that we evacuated told me that 5 minutes before we came, he, called on the radio a voice message. He said, Buchis is dead, Yabetz is dead, Afik is dead. If you will not come in 5 minutes, there will be 5 bodies in Gaza. And I'm taking them, speeding like hell back. I'm going back to Mefalsim, to the shelter, and I'm shouting, Gali, Gali, and Gali is coming out. And I'm telling her, take them to the hospital. And she said, I will, but you go back to Nahal Oz. And she pointing another vehicle and said, Israel, Israel, go with Israel. It seems that when I went there, another friend of mine, retired General Israel Ziv, a hero, he was my commander when I was in the paratrooper, came to rescue people. And he heard that the people need help in Mefalsim. He came to Mefalsim. On the one side of the road, on the shelter, only dead people from the party because they were hiding there and the terrorists throw grenades inside. On the other side, he met Gali, which we know. They start to understand the story, and then I came. So Gali is jumping on the road. On the jeep, she is going with wounded guys. Later on, we visited Yedidia in the hospital. His wife got birth when he was in the hospital, crazy story. And he and Gali talk about this trip because he asked her, how much time to the hospital? And she said, 30 minutes. He said, I will not make it. And then my brave wife saw an ambulance on the road. She took him to the ambulance, and basically they had blood, and this is what saved his life. And she took the other two to Ashkelon and saved their life as well. And I want to tell you something about friendship. I opened the car, the door to Israel car, and I said, Israel, take me to Nahal Oz. And he immediately say only one word, jump. And I said, it's very, very dangerous. It's full of ambushes, no troops, only Hamas. One word, jump. And we are driving just like in Lebanon. We are a team. And we are alone. On 1:15, I left home 7:30 in the morning. On 1:15, we were near the gate of Kibbutz Nahal Oz, and we were the first force who came to help Kibbutz Nahal Oz on that day. Few minutes later, Israeli troops came from Maglan and Sayeret Givati and paratroopers. Basically, we divided to two forces. The paratroopers go and to rescue and fight on Nahal Oz post. On that day, we lost on Nahal Oz post more than 60 soldiers. We lost the female soldiers that monitor the border. And I always says, every investigation should start with those brave ladies, brave soldiers that basically saw everything. And they said, Hamas is trying and practicing to get into Israel and occupied kibbutzim. And their commanders shut them down. They didn't listen to them. And on that day, they were burned to death, and some of them were kidnapped and are still in Gaza. We should start there, every investigation. Okay. At the end of the day, the brave soldiers of Maglan, the brave soldiers of Maglan and Sayeret Givati, enter with me the kibbutz. Basically, there was a very interesting story here. I was wearing a civilian, and I was very afraid that they will identify as a terrorist and they will shoot at me. And I asked the soldiers, give me a shirt, give me a military shirt, and said, we don't have. And then one soldier said, Noam, I have a military tzitzit for you. So I said, give me. So I was entering Nahal Oz with a military tzitzit. I was honored to fight with those brave soldiers. I was not their commander, but I was their mentor. So I gave them good advices, and I basically told them, everybody that outside the houses is a terrorist. Kill him. But inside the houses, there are Israelis alive. Don't shoot into the houses. They did extraordinary work there, and we went from house to house to house to house, very carefully, very slowly. We killed more than 30 terrorists. 4:30 p.m., it was the great moment of my life. I saw my son's house, and I saw that the door is locked. Until then, I checked many houses. When the door was locked, live people. When the door was open, unfortunately, or blood, no people, or bodies. And I came from the right way with the troops. 4:30, I saw the window of the armor room. I knock on the window and I said, Amir, the Abba, it's dead. And then I heard from inside, my 4-year-old granddaughter Galia said, Saba ba, Grandpa is here. And this was the great moment of my life. But in the middle, we were still in the middle of the battle. So it took us until midnight to kill all the terrorists, to clear the kibbutz, and to evacuate more than 400 live people from kibbutz Nahal Oz to a safe place. And if there is something which first of all, I want to give all the credit to what happened to in kibbutz Nahal Oz, to the brave soldiers of Yamas, Mishmar HaGvul, who fought with the people inside the kibbutz, Kitat HaKonenut from the kibbutz, the citizens which are fought on their houses, and of course to Maglan and Sayeret Givati. They did a remarkable job. But I was so proud on one thing. On that dark day, everyone that Gali and I met on our journey to kibbutz Nahal Oz, we saved their life.
What a remarkable story in your personal, I guess, life also has a happy ending, but so sad for so many others and the country. And I got to say, your heroism, and I don't want to go into ageism here, but you, Israel Ziv, in your 60s, create a platoon, go in and fight. But someone asked me outside, and I can't see with those spotlights, and Alan also said the strongest military in the Middle East, one of the strongest militaries in the world, and you said you trusted the military so much. I know there's going to be an investigation committee. I know, we can talk about some failure here and there, but what the hell happened? How did we let October 7th happen?
This is a great question and a very painful question. On October 8th in the morning, when I woke up, basically I told two things. October 7 is the biggest failure in the history of the state of Israel. It never happened before. And everybody that is in charge of this failure, all the leadership of the IDF, all the leadership of the Shabak, and all the government on Israel, and first of all, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, need to go away. They are responsible to this failure. But to answer your questions, I would like to take you to a phone call that happened on Saturday, 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, between the Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, the head of the Shabak, Ronen Bar, and the Southern Command Commander, Yaron Finkelman. And basically, we had all those alerts from those mobile phones of the terrorists. And if I would wake up each one of you, which are not professionals, in the middle of the night, and I will tell you, there is a huge alert from Gaza. The default, the answer from all of you, I would guess, will be, this is alarming, be ready. Something is going to happen. This is basic. You don't need to be a general to understand it. And I did not get any answer yet why they didn't put all the forces on alert. All the forces on the border, all the tanks, all the soldiers, one phone call to the Air Force commander, send helos, send jets. And I think that if they would do this, the outcome would look totally, totally different. Still, it was a massive attack by a division, 3,000 well-trained and well-equipped Hamas soldiers. But if we would act differently, the story should be totally different. And this is something which we need to understand.
And there will be a national inquiry, no doubt about it. And some started.
There is a doubt because, and this is one of the problems. We are talking a lot about Israel. This is terrible that 7 months later, we didn't even start to investigate. This is a huge mistake. It cost us life of soldiers because we are not learning the lessons. And this is not by coincidence that nobody started to investigate yet. This is a huge mistake.
Yeah, and we'll get to the leadership issues and the fact that 7.5 months later, all those that this failure is on their name are still serving, including in uniform. But I want to ask you, before we get to sort of like future questions, just looking at the war now, right? The war started 7.5 months ago with 2 war aims. One was to dismantle Hamas as a governing and a military capability, its ability to threaten Israel's security, and the second was to bring back the hostages. 7.5 months later, we see Hamas resurging in some parts of Gaza where we fought before. We have now 128 hostages, dead and alive, still in captivity. You, again, going back to you're a general. How would you judge the war's conduct so far? And can those aims, are they conflicting? Are they complementary? Where do we go from here?
I think we have 3 main goals. To bring back the hostages, this is number 1. Number 2, yes, to replace Hamas in controlling Gaza. And number 3, to bring back home all the kibbutzim, moshavim, Shderot, who live along the border, which they deserve to come back home secure. Unfortunately, we are running this war only with military operation, but to win a war, you need 2 strong legs, one military and one strategic, led by the government. Unfortunately, because of political issues and that Netanyahu is really rely on the most extreme parties of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, the government never really had a strategic discussion. You talk here a lot about the day after, Your organization already discussed the day after, but the state of Israel, the government of Israel, didn't. And this is a huge mistake, and this is influencing the war. And that's why right now I cannot say that we are winning the war. Basically, what I feel that we are entering a huge swamp. And we have the history of swamp. I served more than 20 years in Lebanon. And we are doing the same mistakes right now in Gaza.
So essentially an attrition war. What you just said now is sort of what last week Minister of Defense Gallant finally said. Some people would say too little, too late, but he finally came out and said, right, basically that the military instrument has to be coupled by a diplomatic, political one. Gantz yesterday said something along these lines as well. The failure to discuss day after makes us lose the war. They both they had verbal gymnastics, only not to say Palestinian Authority, 2 states, West Bank, any of that, as if it's not related. But you mentioned the need to replace Hamas, and sort of what's your vision for day after in Gaza, if you've articulated one?
I think that there is a very good plan on the table right now, led by President Biden. And it is very important for me to say here, from the deep of my heart, thank you to the American people for the help and the support. And thank you, President Biden, for standing with us from day one, sending the Navy, helping us with ammunition. This is very unusual, and I highly, highly appreciate it. I think that the Biden plan is basically a very good point to start the discussion. And basically, this plan is talking about replacing Hamas with a moderate forces. And I'm not talking about Abu Mazen, because Abu Mazen, in my eyes, just like Benjamin Netanyahu, belong to the past. He is not a real leader. But moderate forces, maybe, from the Palestinian police or whatever, they will control Gaza. We will evacuate the forces of Hamas from Gaza because we cannot live near them. We will solve the issue of the refugees. And the most important issue, we will solve the issue of the Israeli hostages. This is for Gaza. In Lebanon, which we have a huge problem with Hezbollah, and I highly believe that one day we will have to clean Lebanon again. But right now, it can be a solution to move them backward. To start the discussion about what's going on in the West Bank, because right now I don't think the Israeli public opinion is ready to talk about two-state solution, but we will create a foundation to do something in the future. And more than all, we will create a strategic relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United States and the moderate countries. I think this is a holistic solution that can be a good start. I don't agree with every detail of this plan, but I think this is a very good start, and I think that the Israeli government should start and deal with this plan as the solution for this regional conflict, because at the end of the day, we need good friends in the world and we need good friends in the region against the extremists of Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah.
Thank you. We can go into a long conversation about that, and I think at IPF we agree with you that Abu Mazen does not serve his people right as an effective leadership, but the Palestinian Authority is an institution, and the Fatah party, because when we say it's not going to be Hamastan or Fatahstan, which Netanyahu loves saying, it's a two-party system. There's no the environmental party in Gaza. So, it's pick your poison, right? And we don't have many choices, but we agree with you that political leadership is needed on the other side, and I'm pretty sure you're going to say that it's also needed on our side.
Of course. I think that today, and basically this is my opinion, we don't have the right leadership to win this war. We don't have the right leadership to bring back the hostages. And we don't have the right leadership to solve all our security problems. And that's why I believe that we should find a way to go to an election and give the Israeli people the mandate to decide who they want to be their leaders, to take us out of this big hole that we are right now fell after October 7.
Okay, so really, two quick questions, and not easy ones. We're hearing all this chatter about Benny Gantz thinking he's going to be the next prime minister, and Naftali Bennett and Yossi Cohen, former head of Mossad. There's a lot of like people standing on the side, like waiting for elections. And can you do you have any idea of how next election going to look like, and how the political scene will look like in Israel once we have elections?
First of all, we need a leadership that will unite the people of Israel, that will take all the hate that we have so deep in our society for the last few years out. I think that we need a leadership that will bring the ultra-Orthodox to serve in the military. Right now, we understand that the IDF, unfortunately, is too small for all the missions that we have on the southern front and on the northern front. Gallant says, the Ministry of Defense said that we need 10,000 more soldiers, and he's right. Basically, we need to build 3 more divisions that we can fight simultaneously in the north and in the south. And I think that if we will find the right leadership that can bring the ultra-Orthodox to serve, it will serve our whole society, economically, militarily, and our democracy. And you have to understand that we need a leadership that will go back to the roots of Zionism. And basically, our national security of the state of Israel, started by David Ben-Gurion, basically stand on 4 legs. Strong military force, strong economy, strong democracy, because we want to be part of the Western world, and a strategic relationship with the United States of America. And if you check the leadership of this government, basically they are attacking all those legs. And basically this is why the security of Israel is in such a bad situation. We need a leadership that will bring us back to the roots. We need a leadership that will bring back home the kibbutzim in the south and in the north, because this is what Zionism means, to work the land all the way to the border. And that's why I believe that we need a totally new leadership. And I believe that once we will call for election, and I hope as soon as possible, we will see new players in the arena.
So please join me in thanking Noam and Gali for your bravery and everything you've done for the state of Israel.
It was, for Gali and for myself, it is the first time that we are leaving Israel from the beginning of the war. We have a son that is serving as a medical officer in the IDF today in Gaza. And I can tell you this, we really need your help. We really need your support as ambassadors to the state of Israel. I know that you are running through a very difficult time here in the United States as well. And I highly appreciate what you're doing. So, from the deep of our hearts, Gali and myself, thank you so much for what you're doing for the state of Israel.